Have you ever wondered why people seem to distance themselves from you, even though you're not doing anything wrong? Sometimes it's not what we say, but what we don't realize we're doing that drives others away. Let's explore 7 subtle behaviors you might be doing without even knowing. Before we begin, I would appreciate it if you liked the video, so that you can help me continue spreading Stoic philosophy. If you haven't subscribed yet, I highly recommend you do so and activate the bell so you don't miss any future videos on Stoicism. We all want to build meaningful connections, but often, without realizing it, we push people away. It could be a behavior so subtle you don't even notice it. In today's video, we'll uncover 7 behaviors that might be damaging your relationships. Understanding these can help you build stronger, more authentic connections with the people around you. Let's get started. Number 1, interrupting others. Interrupting someone while they're speaking might seem like a small habit, but it can have a huge impact on your relationships. It often happens when we're eager to share our thoughts or finish someone's sentence, but this behavior can make the other person feel unheard, undervalued, and frustrated. Think about a time when you were in a conversation and someone cut you off before you finished your point. It probably made you feel disrespected, right? Now imagine being on the other side, constantly cutting others off. This habit can damage your credibility and make others less likely to engage with you. Over time, it can even create emotional distance between you and the people around you. So why do we interrupt? Often it comes from a desire to express our thoughts quickly or to appear knowledgeable, but it can also stem from impatience, anxiety, or a lack of listening skills. Let's look at a real-life example. Imagine you're talking to a friend about a recent work challenge, and they keep interrupting you, adding their own thoughts before you even finish. After a while, you may start to feel like they're not truly listening to you, which can strain the relationship. How can you stop interrupting? First, become aware of when you're doing it. It's often unconscious, so paying attention during conversations is key. Try to give the speaker time to finish their thought before you respond. A good rule is to count to 3 in your head before speaking. This small act can show that you're valuing the other person's words. If you're excited to share your thoughts, wait for a natural pause in the conversation. Practice active listening by fully absorbing what the other person is saying before responding. By making these changes, you'll show respect and create a space for more meaningful, balanced conversations. Number 2, always talking about yourself. Constantly talking about yourself may feel natural, especially when you're excited or passionate, but it can have a negative impact on your relationships. When the conversation becomes one-sided, the other person might feel neglected, unimportant, or even ignored. While it's great to share your experiences, dominating the conversation can leave little room for the other person to express themselves. Think about a situation where you're talking to someone about a personal achievement, but the person you're speaking with never gets a chance to share their own story. They might begin to feel that you're only interested in yourself, not them. Over time, this could create a barrier, as the other person may start avoiding conversations or even distancing themselves from you. Why does this happen? Often, it's because we feel the need to share our experiences to relate to others. But when we're constantly bringing the conversation back to ourselves, it can make the other person feel invisible or undervalued. Let's consider an example. You're talking to a friend about a recent trip you took. The entire conversation revolves around your experience, and your friend doesn't get a chance to share their own thoughts. After a while, they may feel like their opinions don't matter, which could lead them to disengage from future conversations. So, how can you balance the conversation? Start by practicing active listening. Ask open-ended questions about the other person's life and genuinely listen to their responses. Make an effort to show interest in their experiences and feelings. For every personal story you share, invite them to share theirs. If they open up about something, resist the urge to make it about you. Let them speak. This creates a sense of mutual respect and strengthens the connection between you and the other person. By keeping the conversation balanced, you'll help build a more authentic and meaningful connection. Number 3, being overly critical. Constant criticism can slowly chip away at the trust and warmth in a relationship. When you're always pointing out flaws, it creates emotional distance between you and the other person. Criticism might feel like you're helping or giving feedback, but when it becomes excessive, it can lead to feelings of resentment, frustration, and even self-doubt. For example, imagine a colleague who is always pointing out your mistakes without acknowledging what you're doing right. Over time, you might start to feel like you're not good enough or that your efforts are never truly appreciated. This can make you avoid that person, even when you know they're just trying to help. Why does this happen? Often, when we criticize, it's because we want to improve the other person or we feel something could be done better. However, if the focus is constantly on what's wrong, the other person might start to feel like they're never valued for their efforts. How can you offer feedback without being hurtful? Start by practicing the sandwich method. First, acknowledge what the person did well. Then, gently mention the area that could use improvement, but focus on the behavior, not the person. End with positive reinforcement, highlighting how they can build on their strengths. For example, instead of saying, "This presentation was all over the place," try, "You did a great job explaining the key points, but maybe you could focus a bit more on the structure to make it flow even better. Keep up the great work." Being mindful of your tone and how you deliver feedback can make all the difference. Offering constructive criticism with empathy and encouragement can help strengthen your relationships while fostering growth rather than resentment. Number 4, not giving space. In any relationship, personal space, both emotional and physical, is essential for maintaining balance. When we overstep these boundaries, even unintentionally, it can start to feel suffocating to the other person. Whether it's being overly clingy, expecting constant attention, or disregarding someone's need for time alone, not giving enough space can push people away. Take, for example, a friend who constantly calls or texts, expecting immediate responses, even during times when you just need to recharge. While their intentions may come from a place of care, this constant pressure can leave you feeling overwhelmed instead of valued. Over time, this can create tension and even lead to avoidance. But why does this happen? Often it's because we feel a sense of closeness, or we fear being distant from someone we care about. However, without recognizing the importance of space, we can start unintentionally smothering the relationship. So, how can we respect boundaries while still maintaining a close connection? Start by being mindful of the other person's signals. If they seem tired or need alone time, respect that. You don't always need to fill every moment with conversation or contact. Encourage your friends, partners, or loved ones to take time for themselves without feeling guilty. And also, don't be afraid to set your own boundaries by communicating when you need space. Healthy relationships are built on mutual respect and understanding. By giving the other person the space they need, you're actually showing them that you value and trust them. Remember, space doesn't mean distance. It simply means the freedom to be ourselves. Number 5, being unreliable. Being unreliable is one of the most damaging behaviors in any relationship. When we fail to follow through on commitments, whether big or small, we erode the trust that holds those relationships together. Trust is the foundation of any connection, and when it's broken, it can be difficult to rebuild. Imagine a situation where a friend consistently promises to help with something, only to back out at the last minute. This might be something simple, like canceling plans without notice, or more significant, like not keeping a work or personal commitment. Over time, this pattern of unreliability leads to disappointment, frustration, and ultimately, the person may begin to doubt your word. Trust takes time to build, but only a single moment of unreliability can cause it to crumble. People start to question your intentions and wonder if they can rely on you in the future. This lack of consistency can cause emotional distance and leave people feeling unimportant. So how can you become more reliable? Start by setting realistic expectations for yourself. Only agree to things you know you can follow through with. If you're unsure about your ability to commit, be upfront about it rather than making false promises. If you do miss a commitment, take responsibility, apologize, and make it right as soon as possible. Being consistent in your actions is key to proving your reliability. A reliable person is someone others can trust and depend on, and that builds a deeper, more secure connection. By being dependable, you'll show others that they matter and that you value the trust they place in you. Number 6, avoiding vulnerability. Avoiding vulnerability is a common defense mechanism, but it can create a significant emotional barrier in our relationships. When we refuse to open up or share our true feelings, we distance ourselves from others, even if we don't realize it. Vulnerability is key to forming deep, meaningful connections, but without it, relationships often feel shallow or disconnected. Imagine you're going through a tough time, but instead of sharing your feelings with your partner or friends, you keep it to yourself. You might feel like you're protecting them from your burdens, but the reality is, you're also closing them off emotionally. Over time, this can make them feel like they don't truly know you, or worse, that you don't trust them enough to share what's really going on. Not being open can also cause the other person to feel disconnected. They may interpret your silence as disinterest or emotional distance, even though that's not your intention. Without vulnerability, the relationship can feel one-sided, and the other person may begin to pull away. So how can you open up in a healthy way? Start by identifying the emotions you're feeling and acknowledging them. It might feel uncomfortable at first, but opening up with someone you trust is a step toward building a stronger bond. When you share your feelings, try to do so in a way that's honest, but also respectful of the other person's emotional space. Vulnerability doesn't mean unloading everything at once. It's about gradual honesty and trusting that the other person will be there for you. When we allow ourselves to be vulnerable, we invite others to do the same. This mutual openness strengthens relationships, deepens connections, and creates a sense of emotional intimacy. Number 7, being distracted. In today's world, distractions are everywhere, especially in the form of our phones. When we're having a conversation and constantly checking our messages or scrolling through social media, it can make the other person feel invisible or unimportant. What may seem like a harmless habit is actually a subtle behavior that pushes people away. Think about this. You're speaking with someone, sharing something important, but they're glued to their phone, barely looking up. It might feel like they're not really listening, and that can be hurtful. The other person may begin to feel like their thoughts and emotions aren't valued, creating an emotional distance between you. Over time, this constant distraction can erode trust and intimacy in the relationship. So, how can we become more present in our conversations? The key is simple. Put away distractions. When you're talking with someone, give them your full attention. This doesn't mean you need to completely ignore your phone, but it does mean respecting the time you're spending together. If you're in a serious conversation, turn off notifications or put the phone in another room. Show that you care by maintaining eye contact and actively listening. If you find it hard to stay focused, try setting aside specific times for phone use, ensuring that you're not multitasking when engaging with others. This shows the other person that you value their presence and the conversation. By being present, you create an environment where the other person feels heard and appreciated, which strengthens your connection and helps avoid pushing people away. In conclusion, throughout this video, we've explored 7 subtle behaviors that can unknowingly push people away. Interrupting, always talking about yourself, being overly critical, not giving enough space, being unreliable, avoiding vulnerability, and being distracted. These behaviors might seem small in the moment, but over time, they can create emotional distance and strain relationships. The good news is that even small changes in how we communicate and act can make a huge difference in how we connect with others. By listening more attentively, being mindful of others' needs, and showing more vulnerability, we can build stronger, more meaningful connections. Remember, relationships are built on respect and understanding, and each one of us has the power to make positive changes. Take a moment to reflect on your own behaviors and how they may impact those around you. When we make the effort to be more present and considerate, we not only strengthen our relationships, but also become the best version of ourselves. If you found these tips helpful, don't forget to subscribe for more relationship advice. And share your experiences with subtle behaviors in relationships in the comments below. Let's start a conversation and learn from each other.